I'm not totally familiar with this comedian, Ben Gleib, is it? But he sat down with Charlie Kirk. They had a debate about abortion. I started watching some of this, and, I think Gleib does a pretty good job. This is, if you've been a longtime conservative operative who has all this money that he's, raised ostensibly because he was speaking to college kids, and then he had to sort of move on at one point. I would have thought Kirk would have done a little bit better, to be honest with you. I'm not trying to take anything away from Ben Gleib. There's some things that I would have approached differently than he did. But Kirk sort of got embarrassed in a couple of areas. And Gleib did something that had never, ever occurred to me, but was like you watch it and you're like, of course. Here is one segment of this debate worth watching. Ben Gleib, Charlie Kirk, debating abortion.
Okay, awesome. So Charlie's going to adopt soon. Excellent. At 8 weeks, we have tails. At 8 weeks, an embryo has tails. Do humans have tails, Charlie?
I'm sorry, what?
Serious question. Do human beings have tails?
I'm not exactly sure the essence of the question.
Do human beings have tails? Do you have a tail?
Pause it for 1 second. Pause it for 1 second. There couldn't be a more essential question. Like, I mean, in terms of like a question that's a little bit like, I can understand. Hey, what do you mean by that? Do humans have tails? What do you mean by that? Like, maybe I'm going to give Charlie Kirk the benefit of the doubt because he's got his book there and he's obviously like feeling like he's in trouble. So he's got to go to his notes.
The anatomy section.
Listen, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But I mean, the abortion issue, it seems to me, is, I think it's been out there for a while, but whatever, you need to be in your notes. And you look up, and I could see, like, in the first time the guy says, do human beings need, have tails? You're like, oh, I'm sorry, I was reading. I'm sorry, would you say that again? Human beings have tails. You mean, like, do they have, like, their own narratives that they pass on from generation to generation? Is that what you're talking about? That's not where I think Charlie was just trying to how do I respond to this? Because I've said that an embryo is a person. But here, continue.
Do humans have tails, Charlie?
I'm sorry, what?
Serious question. Do human beings have tails?
I'm not exactly sure the essence of the question.
Do human beings have tails? Do you have a tail?
I have never met anyone with a tail. I'm not exactly sure the
Exactly. But fetuses have tails. Kind of proves that at that phase, they are not a human being. They got tails. Humans don't have tails. We're not dinosaurs. Let me even show you a photo, if I may, okay? Do you truly, in your heart of hearts, truly believe that this is a human being? This?
Without a doubt.
Without a doubt?
Yes.
This is a dolphin fetus. Without a doubt, a dolphin fetus is a human being. This is a human fetus. Look how similar they look, but quite different. Dolphin. You just confirmed that a dolphin, in life, do you confuse dolphins for human babies often?
So let me
you
ask
go to
you a
SeaWorld and you're like, someone's got human babies in that aquarium. Get the human babies out of the aquarium.
Well, you labeled it as a human fetus.
No,
so
I did not.
That dishonestly.
No, I did not.
He did not. He did not.
There's a human fetus on there.
Let me ask you a question, though. So let's hold up those two pictures again.
Sure.
Is there a moral difference between the dolphin and the baby?
At this stage, no.
No.
You just confirmed that.
Let me ask you, a human and a dolphin, is it okay to kill one and not the other? Is there a difference morally between a human and a dolphin?
I don't like to kill dolphins, but when they're
do you like to kill babies?
No, I don't. And when they're living, I certainly am not in favor of killing either, but obviously I protect a human over a dolphin.
Hold up the human one.
Sure.
Is that not alive?
No, it is not alive.
Well, then how is it able to have a heartbeat?
It's attached to an alive being called a woman.
Wait,
who is the mother.
It doesn't have a heartbeat, does it?
No,
actually, no. Depending on when that picture is, if that's anywhere like within like the first 16 weeks, that doesn't have anything remotely close to a heart.
It has an electrical pulse.
That
was amazing.
It's amazing. And there was other parts. I mean, there was other parts where, Charlie Kirk is, uses the, if we have a Glebe on, we'll talk about this. But the deploying of the idea of you say that viability is a function of being able to live outside the womb. But can a 3-month baby live outside the womb by itself? If you left a 3-month baby, but here's the test, ladies and gentlemen, just for this, I can't help but resist this. According to them, you could do a C-section on an embryo at 8 weeks to deliver that baby, I would take that 8-week-old baby that actually gets born, that is a person, versus that 8-week-old embryo. We can put them in a room. It's not a question of there needs to be the mother there. You can put any person in. You can put a babysitter. You can have, like, let's do this test. Let's have the high school kid from down the hall in our apartment building take care of both of them and see how long they both live. We'll give them all the food, whatever the babysitter needs. We can take a high school kid. We can take the world's best nanny. We could even take a doctor. Do you need formula? You need baby formula? You need the mother to pump milk in the other room? Do you need, you want mushy peas? The baby, the 8-week-old baby, is going to live. That 8-week-old fetus is going to die because it's not a person. It is not viable. And anybody playing that game of like, 3-month-old baby can't survive on its own. 3-month-old baby does not need to be physically attached in a cocoon called a placenta, essentially, sucking off of, being fed through its stomach with a flesh tube. I mean, that is, but Charlie Kirk really, I gotta say, like, honestly, I debated Charlie Kirk. I didn't think he was an idiot. I think he's just a guy who's like getting paid to be, a college kid and having to grow up. And now he's being, he's paying himself to try and be Rush Limbaugh. But I was surprised at how weak and poorly he
Without a doubt, he said. Without a doubt.
What was so funny about that is how Ben he was very, cagey about answering that question. And then he wasn't suspicious when he should have been.
Yes, exactly. The tail thing is like, I don't want to go down this path, but I will definitely point to that dolphin.
Yes.
Human
without a doubt. And then he was so sort of rocked by it, he had to pretend that that Ben had labeled it a human. Like he was so thrown off.
I just like, let's imagine dolphin fetuses were like a delicacy and they were harvested for eating. Charlie Kirk wouldn't care about that. That would be like good, like
oh
rich
my
person
God,
fare,
yeah.
right?
Of course.
And so like the idea that he's drawing an equivalence between abortions and like dolphins, he definitely does not subscribe to that at all. He's only doing that because he was caught by Ben.
Yeah, he's excited to eat his veal dinner later. But this is a part of the same thing we were talking about with Crowder. He's debating a comedian, and Ben does a great job. But because Charlie Kirk, okay, he did debate you one time, but a lot
Kirk will debate people. I will give him credit.
He
for
recently debated, I think
Ben Burgess.
Yeah.
Oh, he did? All right. Well, there is a little bit of a trend, maybe not applicable to Kirk in this instance, where they feel a little bit more comfortable, like, because they want to debate just the cultural elements that they choose to focus on, talking to comedians or not, people who aren't necessarily following politics for their career.
The thing that I also note, and I will say this to extend that point, one of the beats that we have here, aside from interviewing, academics or journalists for an hour every day, most days, is to cover right-wing propagandists whose job it is to disseminate right-wing propaganda. And there are times where we will get criticized. Like, your whole channel is just like mocking Rubin or Dorr, for that matter. Not that he's necessarily a straightforward right-wing propagandist. He's a propagandist, but I think he does it more for money. And I think he just finds it more lucrative to push certain ideologies. Well, they all do to some extent, but whatever. The Crowders, whoever it is, the Shapiros. But if you listen to them, they'll spend their time not talking about left-wing propagandists, but like the actor on The Office, or the person who won the Grammy and something they said there, or
an Olympian, or John Gruden.
Exactly. I mean, it is like they want to. They are engaging in a culture war, and what we're engaging is pushing back on their right-wing propaganda.
Yeah, I don't think the revolution is going to be YouTube. I think this is basically a defensive enterprise. And
Without
if
a
we can
doubt.
do positive things along the way, then that's good.
Totally agree. Totally agree. And I think anybody who anybody who does what we do, who pretends that they're leading a movement, is full of it.
It's defensive, and it's also a conversion project to a lesser extent, right? I mean, there are a lot of people that go on YouTube and have autoplay on. Sounds stupid, but YouTube is a radicalizing agent for a bunch of people. And you get into the algorithm a little bit. And so that's why...
Without a doubt.
That's why the YouTube-specific clips are clipped for YouTube, the ones that relate to that world. And the first part of the show is the more academic side.
Yeah, I mean, and this, this is a function on some level. It's just a mixture of AM talk radio. And certainly when I got into AM talk radio, it was not because I thought like I'm a movement leader. I'm not a movement leader. I'm not an organizer. I am doing rear guard defense and trying to push back and essentially fight back on a very highly funded, essentially propaganda machine on the right. And anybody who pretends that they're doing something more by sitting in on a desk talking into a microphone is full of it. I mean, the best that we can do is provide a platform for people who have spent a considerable period of their life studying an idea or an issue and present it to you. And then the other thing that we can do well is show what an idiot Charlie Kirk is, or what a coward Stephen Crowder is, or what a charlatan Jimmy Dore is with his anti-vax stuff, or just how far Glenn Greenwald has fallen from somebody who was, had some integrity and attracted some dumps of important information, disseminated that in some instances, did it very much at a high markup, but I guess that's the way you do it. You buy high, buy low, sell high, as it were. But is now in the business of basically just trying to, in some measure, sow chaos and involved in his own culture war. And frankly, I think if I get him to come play in this YouTube universe with a guy who has most of his acclaim from spitting up steak on Sex and the City, I think I've won. That's like mission accomplished. What that guy that you're fighting with on YouTube, I mean on Twitter, yeah, he's a Pulitzer Prize winner, and I'm the guy who spit steak up in front of Miranda. Like, and I got news for you. I didn't get a Pulitzer. That's not why he's engaging me on YouTube. He's engaged on Twitter. He's engaging me on Twitter because this is the only way you drive revenue for your Substack. So, I mean, that's what we do here. Anybody else who's like, that's it. So good for Ben. We'll have him on. I didn't realize where we went to.
How many? It's crazy how much this has grown to. When I started here, we only had like 60, 70,000 YouTube subscribers.
Yeah, and YouTube wasn't. I mean,
it was a podcast.
When I started this, YouTube did not have live streaming. We were using Justin TV, which is now Twitch. When I started at Air America, there was no YouTube.